This is Progress Culture. Progress Culture is a weekly happening where master drummer Paul F. Murphy and I share live improvised music and conversation with people from a variety of fields and expertises about the significance of human creativity in the advancement of ideas, culture, community, freedom, and progress for all. We're excited to have you here, so let's get into the show. But first, let's hear some music! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Progress Culture. We are excited to be here this week. I am Dominic Fragman here with Paul Murphy from Sonic Spirits, which also includes poet Jere Carroll Murphy. And today we have a great friend of the show. He is the show. Tommy Luganbill is here. We're excited to have him.
I am the show.
I just did that.
The show. Isn't that Ric Flair's name? The show.
The show. If it is, woo! I'm ready
I'm done.
to go down that.
That's all I got today.
All right, and we are also excited to have here our great friend Matt Hayes from Southern Maryland Loves You. He is responsible for us all being here all the time, and we love him and appreciate him. Mm-hmm. And we linked up the other day, and we're like, we gotta get it. You were interested in. You were like, when are you doing the nylon string? Matt's the reason why. Part of the reason why we're doing the nylon string in here now.
It's so pretty and beautiful. It's a wonderful guitar.
It actually is very nice.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why he kept asking. I was like, why the hell does Matt keep asking about nylon? But it's very chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I think the name of the guitar says it all. It's a breed love. It's the brand of the guitar is a breed love. And, I don't really have any connection to those guys or anything. And when I bought it, I didn't care who made it, but it just so happens that it's beautiful and it's called a breed love. And that's what I like to do. Actually, Tommy came to one of my shows with North America's Greatest Hand Model this weekend. I did. Some other friends. And when we were leaving there, I mean, you saw the chick that wrote her phone number on my arm, but
is this public? We're talking about this?
Yeah, we're talking about it. Did you see the guy that told me that he felt like he just met an angel, and then came back around and told me that he loved me?
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, that's the vibe I'm trying to.
Even for a drunk person, I mean, that's still.
I don't think this dude was drunk.
Well, then that's even cooler.
He was like, I just can't believe what I just witnessed.
Yeah.
He was like, I feel like I could run 20 miles right now.
I told Dominic that the whole place was feeling like they could run through a brick wall. That was the vibe that was going.
It happens sometimes, It's pretty good. So anyway, before we get too far off into tangent realm, so we got you up here for the nylon string, and how's everything else going? You said you've been doing a lot of stuff. What's on your mind?
A lot of things. But I went to Asheville a little while ago. Yeah. Have you been to Asheville?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so like big artist town, right? And music everywhere.
Very nice.
Like Asheville, it's the coolest city in the country.
Nice landscape too.
Right? Asheville has things that you can only do in Asheville. Like you have to live in Asheville and be in Asheville. There's like a specific haircut that it's a mullet that's shaved on. It's not shaved, but it's flattened on the sides. It's curly. It's brown. It's only worn by women, and
I must have missed this.
You can't wear it outside of Asheville, right?
That
makes it cool. You can't do it. New York City, you can't wear that haircut. You can't wear that haircut in LA
right now, right? Yeah. The young people are rocking mullets.
Yep. Mullets are in style.
But this is a particular mullet?
It's a particular style. You'll see it all over the place. Like 2 or 3 of the town council members have it.
Wow.
Yeah. All female town council too.
Really?
Yeah. It's a cool town. It's a cool town. It's got its own thing, and you can't copy it. But one of those things is the artist community is just amazing, and they have down by the river, just loads of old industrial sites. They've got huge warehouses, industrial buildings. A lot of them are brick and steel. That have been around for a long time and just haven't been used in forever. And the artists have just totally overtaken them. It's the river arts community. And it's got multiple little sub-segments of it and stuff. And the artists are in there and they've just totally taken over these places. And then they can kind of just do whatever they want. And they're big co-ops, right? So 1, the building is cheap. 2, it's been abandoned for a while. 3, the building's super durable, concrete and steel. So normally a lot of times, real estate landlords don't want you to do anything interesting in a building. It's risky. But there's glass blowers and steel welders and metal casters and all of the dangerous things. And they're all working together and all helping each other. And there's, some of those things large glass forges are a big expense, but you only need 1 and you can have 20 artists working out of it, And because it's not really expensive, you can afford to experiment for a while and play around. And then me as a tech startup guy, I'm like, this is awesome. This is like the kind of community that we need, right? And everybody's been trying to push us to do these like incubators where you have like a big company that comes in and helps you out, and you're in like fancy real estate that costs like way more than you can afford, pal. And then like trying to put you in fancy places and make everything like expensive and nice, and we want you like downtown and visible, and we want to show off our tech startups and whatnot. But like, we can't even afford to stay in those places, right? We got to put all our money into like creating and making something, and it's probably going to be like a 2-year weird. We're figuring out ourselves and what we're really doing, just like someone who's casting metal and trying to find out what's going to look cool, what people want. And so that's actual incubator, right? You get to go experiment, play. You can fail a whole bunch of times. You don't have a whole bunch of like bureaucrats and landlords looking over your shoulder and judging everything. You don't have some big company telling you what to do. And to do that, you need cheap real estate, old abandoned buildings that nobody cares about. So it's got me thinking about that. Like, maybe we shouldn't be like trying to innovate in Silicon Valley, and we should be trying to innovate in like, I don't know, the abandoned waterfront docks of St. Louis. Or not even St. Louis, but like rural Alabama, or anything along Route 50, right? Like Route 50, old Route 66 is just it's the Rust Belt.
So
and it's all rusting steel buildings.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I'm going to this place of, I don't mean to be morbid, but what was it called? The Triangle Building fire in Chicago. Mm-hmm. There's this old building, and they were making all these clothes, and then it caught on fire, and then they locked everybody in. Is there any, is it really just abandoned buildings with squatters, or are they there legally?
Yeah, they're not squatters.
So they're actually okay.
Yeah, they're not squatters, but it's low value real estate.
Got it.
Right? Like we all here, we're in one facility, right? We're in a 6,000 square foot facility that costs $90 something thousand a year.
Right.
We didn't have $90,000 a year for a couple of us to experiment, and that's kind of why it closed. Everybody looked at us and we're like, well, we set you up with it, and now you got to pay $90,000 a year just to be in a place, and there was no other place for us.
Right.
Meanwhile, these artist communities have like a 50,000 square foot building, for like $10,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So they can get 100 artists, 50 working artists, dedicate 5,000 square feet for gallery space, 40,000 square feet for experiment, shop, whatever, hanging out space. And then you literally have 50 people that need to come up with like $1,000 a month collectively.
Which is theoretically easy to do.
Yeah, compared to where we were, it's like 3 people need to come up with, $6,000 a month collectively, or $8,000 a month collectively, and that just wasn't gonna work. Wasn't gonna happen, especially when everybody's trying to figure out and make things happen, and every penny you got has to go to developing your product.
Do you think any of this has to do with just the actual landscape and scenery of that city? Because it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah. Plus, I think there's a bunch of factors that come in, and it might be hard for like us to come to an agreement and nail them all down on the phone call. But like, certainly the reason why the art district is able to survive there is because it was a big industrial zone, and that industrial work has largely left the area. Mm-hmm. So, there was a disruption that left a lot of real estate available, because the startups aren't constructing industrial buildings. Like, let's be real, they can't afford that.
Right.
Some 2 guys with an idea and $10,000.
That started quite a while ago, though, in Asheville. Mm-hmm. It didn't just happen overnight.
Yep. And I've seen that kind of thing going down in Kansas City a little bit, but I haven't spent much time in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that kind of thing goes down in a lot of places. I mean, in Manhattan, they have artist co-op buildings. In Baltimore, they have artist co-op buildings. I mean, Manhattan used to have, and I guess now we're going back to the 60s and the 70s, where there was cheaper real estate, where you could afford to go up there and pay $100 or $200 a month to live in a place. and you didn't have to worry about making $1 million a year just so you could stay up there. Detroit, especially after the recession. I mean, I was on tour in Detroit a bunch, and you could go literally to Detroit and buy a mansion for $2,000. Now, all of the copper might be ripped out of it, and the roof might be tarped up, and somebody might be living on the back porch. But I'm not saying that's a good situation. That's a terrible situation. It was a terrible situation. The entire downtown area was abandoned, almost 80% of that. And so that there was real estate there. I remember people talking to me about, oh, well, you should move up here because then you could get a house and you wouldn't necessarily have to think about working a big job. You could practice all the time and go on tour when that stuff happened. Baltimore's the same way. There are dedicated. The Copycat building is that Tommy and I were talking about the other day, has low rent places for artists, and it's definitely not the only one. And Manhattan still does have these buildings that are very nice. I can tell you, you don't just walk into those places.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like in Asheville, but you weren't just saying, hey, I'm an artist,
right,
and I'm of low income, and I'd like to be in this building so I can continue.
Yeah.
Nor was it even really dependent upon the quality of your work. I don't really know what it was dependent upon, actually. But
yeah, and you've got, I mean, there are like artist co-ops around major cities, right? And cities like to show them off, but they're not necessarily cheap places, and they're for established artists.
Yeah, right.
And the flip side, like, I don't know the full deal in Asheville, and it may be coming to like a maturity where like this is going to shift, but certainly leading up till now, like, I'm pretty certain some of those are like, yeah, you can be in here and do your art as long as you do these things for us instead of rent. Mm-hmm. I mean, homeless people can go create things. I mean, not that it's just like anybody's let in, right? But like, you don't have to bring a ton with you. You have to bring like capability, knowledge, the ability to accomplish things, and inspiration. You know what's interesting,
and I'm sure this isn't the direction that you want to go in with the conversation, so I'm trying to hijack it. But wouldn't it be interesting to see? I mean, when I think about that, and I guess I'm biased because we're all sitting here and we were all doing Techport. But the cool thing about Techport that I haven't seen in a place like that is, like, okay, so you got an artist co-op. All of these people in this building are artists that are trying to do their art and trying to put forward their thing. It's just like, I mean, I could go play for a hall of musicians, and they're not really the people that are your fans. You know what I mean? Or they're not really the people that are going to contribute to the generating of a new thing together. So much. I'm not saying they don't, but it was an interesting situation to be in a place like Techport where it wasn't just all artists. It wasn't just all this, and it wasn't that. That was really rad. I wonder if they would, if they have places like that. There's a place called Pioneer Works in Brooklyn that sort of like that, I think.
So Asheville, you've got buildings that are for anything, but when it's for anything, it doesn't really have anything super intensive. So like a bunch of different painters and some sculpture artists and stuff that doesn't require big infrastructure.
Sure.
And then you've got other buildings that have kind of cropped up that are dedicated to something like one big building is a pottery studio, and you got 24 artists in it, and they all have their displays, right? But they're not selling their artwork to each other. They're selling it to the people that are, they've hit critical mass, and people come down to
check out everybody.
Yeah, check out the artwork. And then there's another one that's a huge wood shop. So that's a perfect one to share resources, right? And in there you've got furniture makers and bowl turners and pen makers and a number of different people that are doing different things. Some take commissions, some do cabinetry, some only make bowls and put them out for sale and online and in the shop and in other studios across the East Coast. And so they're, you might have like three desk makers in the same studio, but they're artists, right? They're artists first, so their styles are all totally different.
Right.
I've seen one example of what you're asking. Yeah. The problem is, I'm sure you'll put two and two together. It's the MIT Media Lab. I've been there, and it's musicians and technology and entrepreneurs all in the same place.
I have seen that stuff.
And it's pretty insane what they can do, but they also have gobbles of money.
Yeah.
And it's not this organic thing that just kind of comes
Do you
together.
think that when you that's interesting you say organic, because would you think that if one of these places were to open up down the street or in Southern Maryland or wherever it would be, do you think there would just be people flocking towards, and I mean to work in it, not let alone like to patronize the people that are working in it, but like, do you think that
There needs to
there
be
would be that it would attract those people, and would those people that it attracted at first, would they be the right people that are going to make this concoction work?
Yeah, so that's definitely a question, right? So off the top of my head, the first thing that you really need is the ability to sell what it is that you make. And you can sell that thing online. If you're a tech startup, right, maybe you're only trying to make a couple sales every once in a while, like the big corporations or something. And so having foot traffic isn't really important to a tech startup. But it could be to an artist, depending on who and what they are and what they create. If they're furniture builders,
though. I mean like the actual entities that are working in there. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's
Like
your question
just because
again.
this place opens up, right? Like
Yeah.
let's just say, I don't know, pick a place that we're going to stick this thing, right?
Yeah.
And you open it up, and it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier. Does it just go in where somebody said, hey, we need to support this, so we're just going to dump money into this, and then these people are going to show up and do their thing in there?
So with Asheville, right, these things grew organically. You know, people were like, "Oh, abandoned space. Let's start doing something like hey, I want to make art." Got a couple artists together that don't have a place to be, and they get in an old building, and then someone else is like, "That's cool," and they move in the building next door, and it grows. But it shows that like this works, right? And then now it's at the point where like it's known for this, so lots of people go there to be an artist, because there's resources and space for them, and now people like go there. It's a tourist thing, and you can go buy art, and you would go there to buy art. But I'm pretty certain like 40 years ago, when this was all kind of kicking off, it wasn't like a lot of people flocked there to buy art.
Sure.
You had to like get the art into a gallery downtown, right? But like you can afford it. That's a different business. You got to make the art first. And so for me, right, like I make engines, and so I make noise and hot things and all the stuff that landlords don't like in a lot of cases. And these artists are doing the same thing, you know? And they're the glass item, the beautiful glass vase, can end up in a gallery downtown, but it can't be made downtown.
More specifically to your question, Dominic, I think what you're asking is, would the tech people show up, and would the artists actually show up?
Yeah, and would the people that were showing up
Get along with each other?
well, not get along, but would they be effective? Would they be the right entities? Or would you just end up with people in there that were going, "Oh, a nice
Well, I
cheap
think
place
at
to be"?
Techport
Yeah.
that happened.
That did happen.
Yeah,
That's
we had
true.
people showing up that were interested, and
Well, the people that were in there too. I mean, we got a unit that sanitizes 24,000 N95 masks.
will
you know,
artists
sitting
and startups show up if we had something like that? I mean, They did. That's why we're all together now.
True. Sorry.
Like,
hey.
You know, we're the proof of that, I guess.
Yeah, that was a stupid question, Dominic.
Yeah, and then
That's what I'm good at here.
And then the flip side,
That's why I'm the host.
the thing that got me really interested, right? I'm walking through some of these studios. I'm walking through like a place where they weld up these sculptures and just make big sculptures that, you know, they're going to sell for a good amount of money and stuff. And they're artists and they're cranking out this work, and the place is just like covered in graffiti. But I'm looking in that shop and I'm like, hey, that's the kind of building that I need for my tech startup. And they already have half of my tools. Right. Like half the equipment is already in there. Like you know, like the tools that I don't have yet, they already got, and then I got ones that could make their stuff like maybe really shine.
It's really funny. It's really
and so-
funny to me to sit with an engineer and they're going, "Hey, the artist got what I need. Like we should have that situation," and we're all going like, "Oh, I got a crappy situation."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, so on the flip side, I was like, oh my God, we could do a tech startup thing right here in the artist colony. And then my next thought was like, well, then if we're really successful, we're going to push out all the artists and we'll just be the gentrifiers. And so like, we probably don't want to just move to the Asheville Art District and like blow up these real estate prices by like making it a cool tech hub and getting a whole bunch of people. The next thing you know, you're going to have a bunch of law offices because the coffee's good and they just want to be in a cool town, and then all the artists are gone. Like, let's not ruin this.
Accurate.
But, you know,
This is all accurate.
yeah, because I mean that's what's going to happen, right? Then everybody's going to just set up their office there because it's cool, and then the next thing you know,
That kind of happened in Charlotte to
Yeah.
a certain degree. I mean, Charlotte wasn't as cool as Asheville, but it was very artsy. And then all of a sudden, all the banks were like, "Oh, millennials don't really want to work for us anymore. Where are we going to go?" So all the banks were like, "Oh, let's just bring headquarters number 2 to Charlotte because of the beer." and
Hey,
the-
I mean,
Happened in
it
Wynwood.
wasn't that long ago. Now, I mean, I hope I don't offend anybody, but DC's kind of a square place.
Yeah.
It's a lot of young professionals that are working for the federal government, and they're kind of in the box, and that's okay. But it's a little square. But even as recently as 8-10 years ago, I can remember going to warehouses for parties and gigs and stuff like that. And I don't see that anywhere.
Yeah, DC was
before
not
COVID, I
was
don't know
not a
what's going on
destination.
now. I mean,
no one went there.
I went to what I think was the first ever event at what is now what's the big music venue in DC that's not 930 Club?
Anthem.
No, slightly older than Anthem.
Older than Anthem? Older than
It's not the Auto Bar.
Auto
but
Bars in Baltimore.
Yeah, it's
You had the Black Cat.
no,
Rock
it's
and
just
Roll Hall.
just north of New York Avenue on the east
Is it
side of
owned
the
by
city.
IMP? Is it
Echo.
Echo Stage.
There you go.
I went to
Yeah,
the
same
first,
guys.
what I
should
think
have guessed
was
Echo.
the very first event at Echo Stage. And when I went there, Echo was just like an abandoned factory or something, and it was all industrial. And they brought in a couple of coolers and a gazebo. And they put a gazebo in there for like people to sit in. Like that was the lounge. You're in a wooden gazebo that someone like dragged out of a field, and some coolers and like 2 folding tables. And they had a DJ, and the DJs just brought in their own equipment and set up some big speakers. The place was huge. It was absolutely massive. There was like a structure in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It was like shaped like a donut. It was really weird. There were like offices that were like the upstairs foreman office that looked down. And the people moved there because Nation was shut down.
Right.
Nation got shut down, and so people were just scrambling. And then I heard through the grapevine, like, oh yeah, we got some factory that's been sitting and people don't know what to do with it. And so like we're moving there. And then like 4 years later, it's Echo Stage, and it's fancy and it's expensive, and there's a strip club next door to it, and there's like resources popping up and a sandwich shop, and then the whole place is getting gentrified, and now that's like really expensive and it costs a lot of money to go there.
And that seems like an issue, I think, in general. I mean, maybe not necessarily just for spaces for artists or for tech startups or this or that. I think people, as far as a community, we're having trouble finding places to convene to just be and do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not allowed to do anything now, and the gates are closing at dusk. You know, you can't even go hang out in the park. It's, What are you supposed to do to get together and be something that isn't what you're supposed to be?
We had this conversation even with our younger professionals that we interviewed on this show this spring about like, why are you leaving Southern Maryland? And they all go hang out at Target. You remember that? They all hang out at Target. And we're like, why don't you hang out downtown? They're like, you get 30, 18-year-olds hanging out downtown. The cops will move you along.
Yeah,
it's like,
true.
oh, man. You know?
Yeah. I guess if you're 30-year-olds hanging out downtown and you didn't buy nothing, they're probably gonna move you along too. You know?
Yeah, and I go back to thinking me growing up. I grew up, you know, outside DC, but we hung out at an Arby's in the parking lot.
Sick.
I used to,
So
yeah.
yeah.
We used to just go to the beach, and that's one of the things. Is like I used to in my neighborhood, we could just go to the beach and we could take our friends with us if we need to. We can't do it anymore
Because beaches used to be like a not owned, universal kind of off property thing, and now
HOA
it's
stuff, and nobody wants you there, and you're like, well, all right. I guess
You weren't charged to go.
yeah.
You could go.
This lack of being able to get people together and a lack of them being able to work and exist in a space. I don't know. Maybe we all move out to the Rust Belt.
You know, if it was going on, I'd go.
I don't know.
I went to a concert in Clarksdale, Mississippi, which was a curious town. But I went to a show in Clarksdale, Mississippi, in an old theater. So it was like a movie theater, but it was the ones where it was built like a long time ago. So like it had like a stage that people could perform on, but it primarily just had a screen that they would project on. And
I played in those places.
Yep. And the place was like destroyed. Like all the seats were gone, the carpet was gone, so it was just a gently sloping concrete floor going up to a stage, brick walls. The roof was gone. There was no roof. It was just stars.
Wow.
It had like fallen and collapsed, and they just pulled it out. Like some of the girders were still up
they
there.
had insurance.
And then the concession stand area, the booth and stuff, that still had the roof on it. So you would come in through there, and they had a big cooler with some cans of beer for like $1 or something as you came in the door. And then they had a little bit of like green space to the side, and they set up some porta potties and a generator, and then they ran extension cords inside the building, and they had like shop lights, and they ran the audio equipment on it. And that was the only electricity. And the whole place was like some shop lights and the sound equipment. Cool. And it was the coolest place in town, and everybody knew it, and everybody went there, and that was where you would go for a concert.
So, as we're running out of time here, now, what do we do with all that?
I don't know. We create an artist tech co-op. Like, they kind of tried this up in Baltimore, but again...
Kind of tried it at Techport.
Yeah, they did it with an abandoned building, but in a really expensive spot, and at the end of the day, they couldn't afford to keep it running because they couldn't pay for it. Like, we need somewhere cheap. We need some cheap building somewhere, and I don't mean subsidized for 3 years. I mean like cheap.
You need somebody that is the pipeline for all the things that get created. Somebody that will market them, and somebody that will say, hey, you know what? It's worth doing this because I can make money off this stuff. Instead of like taking all this money and getting together with all your moneyed up investors and putting it behind something that is already out there a bunch, you can say, hey, look, these people are creating some mess, and we're just going to take the best of it and pipeline it out to the world, and that's how we'll continue to keep this thing running.
Yeah, there is a building in Hagerstown. Is it Hagerstown? I think it's Hagerstown. For those that don't know, Hagerstown had 2 massive employers that left like 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
Totally gutted the town. There's a building there where they used to build the A10 Warthog.
Oh, yeah?
Totally abandoned. It is, apparently the landlord has been a little difficult to work with, but the building itself is like 15 acres.
Wow. So we should just move in.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Stay in the corners where they don't check.
Yeah. It'll take them a week to walk the building.
Yeah.
That's right. We could be moving around.
It actually...
Put surveillance and radar in there, and we know all the time.
The first company to get kicked out of Techport moved up there briefly, and they said the flight testing inside the building was totally reasonable.
Wow.
It was so big.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right on. So, okay, so what we're going to do, so the plan is we're going to just...
Move to Cleveland.
We're gonna occupy some big abandoned building and start doing cool things. All right. Well, good.
And I've looked for abandoned buildings in St. Mary's County. I haven't found one yet.
I'm sure we could probably find some in the woods, but they'd pretty wrecked.
Yeah, you get like an old tobacco barn, but it wouldn't have electricity, and it would be designed to be
Yeah.
Just burn one down.
That one.
There is a farm. There is one near me.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
So apparently there's actually one near me, and it's supposedly the owner's pretty cool. It's a big barn. It's got a concrete like first floor. It seems really sturdy. It's in a field next to some cattle. It's in a nice neighborhood. It's at the end of my block, actually. It looks all pretty cool, but there's currently a renter in there. But like the renter is a user of substances that we don't typically consider very appropriate in our communities, and he does some really basic auto repair, and there's been some crime issues in the community as a result of them, and maybe we'd have to work with the owner, but he's
right,
got
work your
8,000
magic,
square
man.
feet of plus another story on top of it.
Go work your magic. Work your Southern Maryland magic, and let's make it happen. In the meantime, as we get out of here, what's going on with Southern Maryland Loves You?
We're going through the process to get the FDA to like fully certify this thing. No idea how long that takes. It's pretty opaque, so I don't have a whole lot to say on it.
Yeah.
We are chasing pretty hard to figure out either alternative methods, alternative customers for the hotbox, where we can take the hotbox, what we can do with it. And we've got a lot of hope on that horizon, and we're really looking into smaller versions. We're doing some modeling now.
Cool.
To make that desktop version. We've been talking about it for like
Yeah,
a
right.
year and a half, but like we were so focused on large scale helping the most number of people, and now it's kind of like, all right, let's make this like more applicable to your business, because that actually gets it out more now.
Sure, right.
That's our big push at the moment.
Right on.
Yep. So
Right on.
get that
Right
hot
on.
box out there, man.
Right
Get
on.
people using it.
Tell everybody, tell all your friends. Dry heat sanitization.
Dry heat,
Hot box.
Bioburden reduction.
semi-automated dry heat bioburden reduction
It's
module.
rolls off the tongue.
Tell all your friends.
And the inventor.
Yeah. So, well then, cool, man. Well, when you come back next time, I want to know about this new building we're all moving into.
Yeah.
As long as it's not in the Rust Belt.
Yeah.
Somewhere around here.
And a fresh new cigar box guitar.
Oh, yeah, that's getting pretty close. I've got the.
You've been saying that.
I know. I've been saying that a long time, but the neck is on it. The adjusters are mostly done. I haven't made the bridge yet, so that's the next big task, is making the bridge out of an old bolt.
Cigar box guitar and a brand new place to tech startup.
Unless you don't want it made out of bolt, I found like a femur of a deer, if you want to use that as the bridge instead.
I don't know why you wouldn't.
A bone. That's traditional, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's a bone for the.
And that's all we have for today, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you all for
Trumping Dominic here. And
do it too. Thank you guys very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you. We're going to be here again next week, and we hope you will too. You can check us out on progressculture.org, sonic-spirits.com, and somdlovesyou.org for our sponsors. And as always, if you're working on something cool, something different, let us know, let your friends know, let everybody know, and we can start having conversations about it, and that is the way we make it happen. So tune in next week. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Much love. Thank you all for being with us. We appreciate your time and consideration. And, as always, please feel free to reach out to us at progressculture.org and sonic-spirits.com. We are building a community that supports positivity and progress for all, and in all fields. If you have any ideas about how to do that, please share them with us, share them with each other, and we can make it happen. Thanks for watching and listening. We hope to see you on the next one. Much love.